Thank you, Cheryl and band. That was beautiful. Mike, thanks for the one earlier on. Love hearing you strumming the banjo. That was beautiful. I have a really exciting privilege this morning. I've invited Tina Carroll to come up beside me because she is starting this week as our brand new director of children's ministry. Some of you remember Susan Burton, who was here with us for a couple of years, and then she left to go to Ohio. So that's people do that, you know. Actually now on to Texas, but her husband got a fellowship to study up there, and so we commenced a search, and the search actually was very extensive. It went through several different phases, and we just didn't find the person that we thought was the right fit. And after the search had gone on for a year, and there were a few people a little discouraged about the search. A lot of praying was still going on. And lo and behold, just about that time after a year, Tina walked into the church, and after worship service, she said to Pastor Mike, "How could I get involved with Vacation Bible School?" And we come to find out that she has been the director of children's ministry for a number of years at the largest Presbyterian church in Wisconsin. And she and her husband Terry have moved down to the villages. They had a family connection that brought them here. They've been in and out of North Lake a few times here and there over the years, and now we're moving here. And when Pastor Mike found out that she had been the director of children's ministry, he just about, he couldn't wait to let me know about that, talk to her about it. One other thing, because I am sure the Holy Spirit was working overtime to bring Tina here. I'm just positive of that. She was a part of the Crossroads Presbyterian Church in Mequon, Wisconsin, a suburb of Milwaukee. And when I saw that, I know that church. One of my best friends, a covenant brother in my group, I've known for 20 years. He had been pastor of that church. His name is John. And in fact, just the Tuesday night before she was here, I had dinner with John on my right side. We were having dinner together. We'd just been together. I texted John right away after I heard about Tina and said, "What do you know about Tina Carroll? There may be a possible match with our director of children's ministry." He said, "Snatch her. She will be an incredible blessing to your children and to your community." And so we know that to be true. It's already exciting to see you. Even though she doesn't formally start till August 1st, she's already been involved planning curriculum, getting teams organized. Tina, we are so thrilled to have you here. God bless you. Thank you so much. Yeah. It's very exciting. I do want to say another word about what's coming up, just to give you a little glimpse into August. Next week, actually Saturday, this coming Saturday, my wife Bobby and I, with our son and his wife and our two granddaughters from Orlando, we get on a plane together and fly to Minnesota. And we're looking forward to that. We have what we call Hosmer Palooza. We gather our kids from all over the country. So now our daughter and her husband and our 1-year-old grandson, they live in Minneapolis. They've just moved up there. And we have another son and his wife from California. We're all going to converge up there. And Hosmer Palooza 2019. So we ask for your prayers for travel. We look forward to having a reunion and, prayers for taking two little ones on the plane with us. And we're going to all travel together up there. But indeed, I wanted to let you know that in particular because I'm grateful that next Sunday, Pastor Lynn will be doing the message. And grateful for that. And leading you into and through the sacrament of communion. And the week after that, I will be back for worship. But arriving very late Saturday, and so Pastor Jerry will be doing the message at all three services on the 11th. So Pastor Jerry, thank you. And then then on the 18th and 25th, we're going to get back to Acts. We're going to do 2 more lessons on Acts, messages, to get us through the 10th chapter. And then that'll be the end of season 4. Acts of the Apostles, season 4. And we'll switch gears as we head into the fall. So up on the screen, you can see a list of New Testament books, and I wonder if you know what those books have in common. Some of you, I'm sure, do. Those are the letters or epistles of Paul. All right, Romans, 1st, 2nd Corinthians, Galatians, Ephesians, Philippians, Colossians, 1st and 2nd Thessalonians, 1st and 2nd Timothy, Titus, Philemon. These are all believed to be from the pen of Paul. When you add to that, consider also the fact, all of those, all 13 of those attributed to Paul, and then add to that the fact that half of the book of Acts describes Paul's missionary journey, his activity, his work spreading the gospel. So what does that mean? There are 27 books in the New Testament. 14 of them are connected to Paul, or Saul, which is his Jewish name, as we've learned. And up until this point where we're reading, his name is referred to as Saul. Of course, look, Jesus is the superstar. Jesus is the Messiah. He is the center of the gospel. Without Jesus Christ, there is no New Testament. There is none. But when it comes to learning how to follow Jesus, how best to follow, how to live as a disciple, how to live together as a church, the epistles and the example of Paul is indispensable. Indispensable. Last week we read about Paul's Damascus Road experience, his encounter with the risen Christ. And he's on the way to pursue Christians who had fled persecution in Jerusalem, and he was the persecutor. And so we considered the before and after of Saul, the before and after of persecutor becoming a witness for Jesus. Before, he was on the way to apprehend Christians who had fled from Jerusalem because of persecution. Afterwards, he belongs to the way, the term that was used, the way for disciples of Jesus Christ. He belonged to Jesus. Beforehand, he was an instrument of the Jewish authorities. He had letters, he had official documents allowing him into the synagogues to apprehend and bind up people to take them back to Jerusalem. Afterwards, he's an instrument of God to reach the non-Jews, the Gentiles, and other people. It's an amazing transformation, the before and the after. Of course, the aftermath continues in chapter 19, and that's where we continue to read. Here we go, starting halfway through verse 19. For several days, Saul was with the disciples in Damascus, and immediately he began to proclaim Jesus in the synagogue, saying, "He is the Son of God." And all who heard him were amazed and said, "Is not this the man who made havoc in Jerusalem among those who invoked this name? And has he not come here for the purpose of bringing them bound before the chief priests?" Saul became increasingly more powerful and confounded the Jews who lived in Damascus by proving that Jesus was the Messiah. After some time had passed, the Jews plotted to kill him, but their plot became known to Saul. They were watching the gates day and night so they might kill him. But his disciples took him by night and let him down through an opening in the wall, lowering him in a basket. And when he had come to Jerusalem, he attempted to join the disciples, and they were all afraid of him, for they didn't believe that he was a disciple. But Barnabas took him, brought him to the apostles, and described for them how on the road he had seen the Lord who had spoken to him, and how in Damascus he had spoken boldly in the name of Jesus. So Saul went in and out among them in Jerusalem, speaking boldly in the name of the Lord. He spoke and argued with the Hellenists, the Greek contingent, but they were attempting to kill him. When the believers learned of it, they brought him down to Caesarea and sent him off to Tarsus. Meanwhile, the church throughout Judea, Galilee, and Samaria had peace and was built up. Living in the fear of the Lord and in the comfort of the Holy Spirit, it increased in numbers. Let's pray. Let's pray. God, thank you for this beautiful summary of the church in those early days. Having peace and being built up and increasing in number. And how so? Well, because they were living in reverence, in awe of you, and in the comfort, in the strength of the Holy Spirit. May that be true today for North Lake and for all of your church, Lord. Help us to hear you today and to hear what you want us to do and to how to live that out. We pray in the name of the Savior, the Messiah, Jesus. Amen. Saul wasted no time. He had a few days of getting acquainted with his new best friends, the Damascus disciples. But Luke reports that immediately he began to proclaim Jesus as the Son of God. He didn't mess around. He just didn't mess around. Even with many who probably doubted his conversion, his pivot from persecutor to witness and champion for Jesus, advocate, he went after it. And it says that even those who heard him were amazed. And they asked, is not this the man who made havoc in Jerusalem? Isn't this a guy that made havoc? Sounds like a Bruce Willis or Sylvester Stallone movie title, The Man Who Made Havoc. This is Saul making a mess out of others' lives. Actually, the word that's behind us in Greek could mean to destroy or to ravage. Paul uses the word himself when he wrote to the Galatians. He said in Galatians 1:13, you've heard no doubt of my earlier life in Judaism. I was violently persecuting the church of God and was trying to destroy it. What's trying to destroy is actually the same Greek as in made havoc. Just 10 verses later, he uses the word again. Only this time, he is quoting those as they looked upon him. How did people see Paul? Verse 23, he says, the one who formerly was persecuting us is now proclaiming the faith he once tried to destroy. Paul was ruthless, trying to stamp out the Christian faith and the followers of Jesus before they could amount to anything. He was the terminator. He made havoc for the believers. No wonder people doubted whether or not he was legit. Was this for real? When they heard him proclaiming Jesus as Messiah. I mean, his turnaround is astonishing, miraculous. It's one of the works of the Holy Spirit. And its impact has continued for 2,000 years. With his living testimony, Saul was proving that Jesus was the Messiah. I also want to point out something else earlier in this verse where Luke tells us that Saul became increasingly more powerful. Became increasingly more powerful. That, of course, means that he was training to be the world's strongest man. I'm just checking to see if you're listening. It does, of course, not mean that. It also doesn't mean that he was training with Mr. Brad. It doesn't mean he was trying to get stronger and fitter. No, what it means is that he was growing stronger in faith. He was getting stronger and stronger in his faith and in his ability, his dynamic ability to be a witness for Jesus Christ. He was, by the way, I mean, just think about this. Paul was also the same one who said later on to the Philippians, I can do all things through him who strengthens me. And also to the Ephesians, chapter 6, he said to them, be strong in the Lord and in the strength of his power. It's about getting stronger, but not physically. It's about becoming stronger, bolder, more resilient, more persevering in our faith. Saul, or as we've said, Paul, his Greek name, he was a titan of discipleship. His ability to teach and debate, because that's what he was doing with the Hellenists, he was debating them. His ability to lead and to love in the name of Jesus Christ was far more impressive than anything you might do with barbells or dumbbells. Right? The kind of strength that was making a difference forever. In fact, his faith muscles kept getting bigger and bigger until he was an enormous figure in the history of the church. Not thickly muscled, but strong in the faith that he had to convey. It's a beautiful account of Paul getting stronger. It's also a reminder then for you and me to keep getting stronger. Get stronger in faith. Don't stop. Look, my physical strength today is laughable compared to what it was 4 decades ago when I was training as a collegiate athlete. It's a joke compared to what it was. But wonderfully, my faith strength, my connection to God, my personal devotional life, my prayers, they are stronger than ever and continue to get stronger, which is great news. Because you see, age is no limiting factor for this kind of strength. It's just no limiting factor. And I'm excited about Alyssa and Angelina. I'm excited about their baptism. I know they're going to get stronger in faith. We're going to help them. We're going to invest in that. We want to see that occur with them and with our youth. And it's like, it seems like a given that they will become stronger in faith. And we're going to want and pray for that to happen. But I believe it's still true for all of us. Right? I believe that our faith may be at its strongest in our latest and eldest years. I believe that. I've seen it happen over and over again. So be strong in the Lord and in the strength of His power. Keep growing in that. We hope that happens every Sunday morning in worship. We hope that's part of the strengthening process. And in your personal devotions and in small groups or discussion groups or in classes that you participate in and where we hold each other, keep growing and getting stronger. Now here's the crux of the message this morning. It's right here. No matter how strong Saul was getting, no matter how powerful he became, he was still a real basket case. And so are we. So are we. Look, when the situation in Damascus worsened and his life was threatened and there were conspirators watching day and night at the gates to get an opportunity to seize him and kill him, his disciples devised a plan and a way to get him out of the city undetected. They took him at nightfall to an opening in the wall, lowered him in a basket, so no one would be aware that he had left the city and had not used the gate. Saul may have been strong. He may have been powerful, and he was growing in strength. But he wasn't so strong and so overconfident that he wouldn't take the counsel of his newest best friends and also to take their help to get out of the city. I mean, they look a little bit like Navy SEALs on a special op, lower them down, lowering down one of their own to safety, out of trouble. Saul was literally a basket case, escaping from Damascus with the aid of his disciples, of the other disciples. Now, if you get the weekly email that comes out from the preacher of the week on Thursday, I try to outline or trace the origin of that slang term, basket case, which is now exactly 100 years old. Just very quickly, it originates from the period right after World War I. And the United States Surgeon General of the Army, one of the communiques, used the term basket case. It meant, and now I'm quoting, a veteran who had lost both arms and legs and therefore must be carried in a basket. That's where that term comes from. Actually, the Surgeon General was saying we don't have any of those cases, but others have argued there were. That's not our point this morning. Eventually, basket case became a derogatory term as well for persons who were not coping emotionally or socially, or maybe were just different. So when I use the term basket case this morning, I intend no insult toward those who struggle. Quite the contrary. Because those of us who follow Jesus are called to be even more attuned to persons who are struggling physically, emotionally, spiritually, cognitively, to be even more attuned to that and responding even more compassionately. 2 Sundays ago, we were worshiping at a Presbyterian church in Pennsylvania, and there the director of children's ministries also had a time with children similar to what we do. And when she sat down with them at the front steps and they had gathered at her feet, she began by asking, "Do you know why I wear glasses?" There's a little hubbub, and one of the children spoke loudly enough so we all could hear it. "Because you're old." And she did, and the congregation did as you've done. They just laughed, and she was playful and right on top of it. She affirmed that decision. But then she says, you know, there are also persons who are younger who need glasses to help them see better. And then out of her bag of tricks, she took a set of sunglasses. You know, sometimes you wear these, and the kids knew what that were for. And then she took out swimming goggles, and they knew what those were for. And then she took out safety goggles, and they knew what that was for. One at a time, she took it. Now she said, now I want you to put on your Jesus glasses. And apparently this is something she had taught them before. Because all of the children up front, they all did this. They all did like this. They put on their Jesus glasses. And she explained to them that when you have on your Jesus glasses, she said, you get to see other people the way that Jesus sees them. You get to understand them and see people the way that Jesus sees them. Oh, I wish I had a whole set of those to hand to everybody, right? It's a beautiful way. But see, Jesus knows that he knows what struggles we have. He sees us clearly. As a result of that, when we are followers of Christ, it's not just political correctness. When we're following Jesus, we don't make fun of quadriplegics. Of course not. Maybe that happened 100 years ago. Maybe it still happened more recently. We don't do that. We do not trivialize persons who struggle with post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, or as it was called in the First World War, shell shock. We don't trivialize that. Or any of the wounds that we carry from all the wars of life. And in profound humility, we acknowledge that we are all, in some fashion, basket cases. Lowered, raised, and rescued by God's grace. All of us. Saul was not incapacitated. He was able to function. He wasn't emotionally paralyzed. But he needed the help of others around him. He needed that help. Remember with his conversion that the Lord made sure Saul learned he was dependent on others. How? That's one of the lessons of blindness. Even though it was temporary, when you're blind, you need to be dependent on others around you. He had to rely, he had to trust others to lead him the rest of the way to Damascus. And Jesus could have healed his blindness from a distance. He did. But what did Jesus do? He sent a man named Ananias to him so that Saul, again, would know that he had to rely on somebody else to help him. Another person coming to help him. No matter how strong or powerful Saul became, he would always recall that transforming moment when he was humbled and he realized he had to be dependent on others. And then when it was time to get out of Damascus, he needed the help of others to escape without notice. Over and over again, he got help. You know, when he went back to Jerusalem, the verse almost just slides right into it. When he went back to Jerusalem, he tried to mix in with the Christian disciples. He tried to just mix in with them. Guess what? That didn't work. They knew who he was. That's a little bit like somebody a player going into an opponent's locker room at halftime saying, "Hi, I'm going to play with your team the second half." The man who made havoc wanted to change teams, change uniforms. No way, they said. No way. They didn't trust him. He had no credibility. They detested him and what he had done. Saul needed help. This time it came in the form, not of Ananias, it came in the form of Barnabas. Barnabas was already well respected in Jerusalem. Barnabas was well known, generous. He was somebody that they saw as really trying to advance the cause of the church. And Barnabas stepped forward, and it says that he took Saul and he brought him to the apostles, and he told them about what happened to Saul on the road to Damascus, how he heard the Lord, and then how Saul began to preach the gospel in Damascus and the fruits of that preaching. And when he'd explained that, because of Barnabas standing in that church, he won the day, and Saul was then permitted to go in and out in Jerusalem with the home church. It's a turning point there. He gets help, this time from Barnabas. And one of the things that's occurred, if you have been reading with us through Acts, is that the stronger the proclamation of Jesus, the stronger the reaction, the resistance, the antagonism it raises. That's what happens. Saul is so strong in his proclamation, his preaching of Jesus, that now there's a whole new group of people in Jerusalem that want to get rid of him. And his secret service, or the early disciples' version of that, secret service, whisks him away out of Jerusalem, down to Caesarea, the seaport, coastal town, and then off to Tarsus, that's where Saul grew up. He goes back to his hometown in Asia Minor, present-day Turkey, southeastern Turkey. He goes back there. We can be so glad that he escaped this time. In fact, many times he escaped. We can be so glad that he escaped and so thankful, grateful, because he helps to extend the gospel of Jesus to the ends of the earth. And we can be glad because he writes his epistles that we have in the New Testament. How strong, how powerful Saul was. And yet he still had to flee from real threats. He needed to get away. And he needed help. Doesn't matter how strong he was, he needed help. Again and again and again. He needed help. That's why I love the image of the basket case. One of the strongest being helped by the others. Strong doesn't mean we don't need help from others. Sometimes we think being strong means being independent. It's an American myth about individualism and rugged. I don't need any help. Boy, is that wrong. Regardless of how strong we are, how seemingly competent or composed, we all need help. We all deal with different causes of stress, different kinds of anxiety, different problems that impair our ability to function. We are all hampered by sin and our own idiosyncrasies or dysfunctions. Every one of us. In profound humility, we acknowledge that we are, in some fashion, we are all basket cases. Lowered, raised, rescued by God's grace. If you tell me you're not a basket case, I won't believe it. I know I am. I'm a real basket case. Please, brothers and sisters in Christ, let me down easy. And when the time comes and you need it, I'll do my best to do that for you too. Let's pray. Lord, I'm here to worship you this morning with my fellow basket cases. And I thank you that you give us an example of Saul, who is so strong, so powerful, so compelling, and yet needing so much help. Please keep reminding us that being strong doesn't mean not taking your help and the help of others around us. But more than that, Lord, we need your help to be bold, to continue to proclaim Jesus, and to become the church that you desire us to be. So help us to live that out. In the name of Jesus Christ, the Savior, we pray. Amen.